Deputy, I have already acknowledged that my understanding of what Mr Doyle, his position was, I'm vague about when I picked that up. I had many conversations with Mr Doyle, and it's definitely, this report was finished that we're talking about, and at the time when it was finished, almost 5 years ago. So I'm really not going to and the question has already been asked by Deputy O'Donnell.
Well, I'm entitled to ask the questions with respect, Governor. Prefacing the four times that you referenced, 3 times Doyle and 1 with Kevin Cardiff, which you are saying that you probably spoke to Kevin Cardiff, but you can't categorically say that you've spoke to Kevin Cardiff about the note. I reminded you, and I'm just asking you if you're still aware of this there, and I'll quote, "I'm sure Professor Honohan understands that this is very important. The information he gives to this committee is evidence." And this is what we're trying to gather here. So the question I would ask you, in relation to moving on to Kevin Cardiff, is there a possibility that you did not speak to Kevin Cardiff in relation to note number 6?
I guess, look, Deputy, you're not going to get very many answers if you start saying, where's your evidence for a conversation? I spoke to a lot of people in preparing that report very quickly at a time when probably there were other very important matters to be done. I don't have detailed notes of all the conversations I had with the Secretary and the Second Secretary General of the Department of Finance. I'm not going to get into this. This is not material. You're not asking me. You're asking me about my knowledge of something that happened before. If there turns out to be a conflict of evidence with Mr Cardiff or with Mr Doyle, you can bring me back. There seems to be no conflict of evidence now between what Mr Doyle says and what I'm saying.
Well, Mr Doyle hasn't been before the committee, and
no, but he has spoken to me.
And that's
sorry, no, he hasn't spoken to me. He sent me an email, so I have to be very careful here, because otherwise you'll ask me 4 times and I'll say 4 times and then you'll say you said 4 times. So I have to get everything right. I'm not satisfied with this line of questioning, because I'm here to try and help this.
Well, I am here to try and help the inquiry as well, and I'm sorry that we are now, it appears, at loggerheads in relation to this here. I'm trying to get to just the facts in relation to this here. The point I'm getting at, because you were in here to discuss your own report, the Honohan report, and you've stated that the only evidence that you found, written or oral, was this note. I asked you, did you ask any of the other, I think about 9 or 10 individuals, including the Taoiseach, the Minister for Finance, and the regulator, in relation to this note? You've confirmed that you didn't speak to anybody else, but you gave the impression at the last hearing that you spoke to Kevin Cardiff and David Doyle. You're now saying that one of them definitely didn't happen, the other probably did. The reason I'm asking this question, Governor, is that, in your words, the only evidence that suggests that there may have been knowledge that there was substantial losses, it was not, in your words, investigated by yourself in relation to your report, and that's what I'm trying to find.
Which is perfectly legitimate, because my report was supposed to be about the regulatory structure and not about the Department of Finance. So you see, the point here is that it's perfectly possible for you to put me in a position to look as if I don't know anything about anything, because I speak very carelessly. Well, you asked me a question on the spot, and I answered it as I remembered it at the time, but then when I was pulled up by Mr Doyle, I said, gosh, I'm not sure. So, and then I thought about it.
And I think that it's generally appreciated that you've been extremely helpful to this committee in terms of your availability.
I'll just give you